What's going on, everybody? My name is Charles VanDerHeyden IV, and I am here with you guys on Just Another Year Chicago Bulls with a very, very special guest. This man, he runs the Bulls Central YouTube channel. If you are a Chicago Bulls fan and you're on YouTube, you know this dude. His name is Jamaal. Jamaal, thank you so much for being here, man. It is an honor to have you on the channel.
Appreciate you having me, man. Glad we can make the time.
Absolutely, dude. So we'll kick right off, man. How are you feeling about the Summer League play so far?
Initially I wasn't feeling that great because the first two games did not look good. And it was mainly just because I feel like the team fit wasn't the best overall. We're just the way that the guys were playing together. It's like you could see the talent was there, but the fit wasn't quite there. But that last game was great. And I talked about this in one of my recent videos. What I needed to see the most from Essengue was the progression from game to game. Because that first game, everyone was like, oh my God, he's going to be a bust. Clearly, he's a project player. This isn't going to be something that we're going to be able to work with. Why did we take him at 12? All the overreactions that you see from Bulls fans, which is typical. But then I just need to see progression. And we've seen that from game to game.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you. But overreactions, Bulls fandom, I don't know what you're talking about there, man. but I will say I agree though, man. Like Noah Essengue, the first game was rough. I felt bad for the guy because obviously he's getting to know everything. He's getting acclimated with the culture, and so the first three games overall, actually, considering the last game with the meme, I feel for Noah. He's getting a crash course on meme culture here.
I'm looking forward to like when he has his time, his day, where we can go back to that meme and just sort of be like, all right, yeah, funny at the time, but now he's been balling and dominating, so let's not overreact here. But yeah, that was bad. It was mainly because of his facial expression while it happened, right? If it was just any other poster and he was just kind of falling away, but it was also the look on his face that made it exceptionally bad.
It was exceptionally bad. But I gotta say, man, I was really looking forward to seeing what Lachlan I think I'm saying this right. Lachlan Olbrich. I was looking forward to seeing what he brought to the table. What were your thoughts on him so far?
I mean, what do you expect from a 55th overall pick? I thought he was good for a 55th overall pick. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of things that need to be worked on, whether or not he actually gets a roster spot, whether it's actually going to be spending more time on the Windy City Bulls. Is he going to be a long-term option for the Bulls as like a starting center? No, I don't think so. But there were things that I did like seeing. He actually is a pretty high IQ player for the most part. Like he's got decent court vision. He's a pretty solid playmaker for a big man anyway. He's aggressive when it comes to crashing the boards, but some untimely turnovers, not the best footwork in the paint overall. So I think I don't have very high expectations of him in general. And so maybe because of what I've seen, it's like, okay, because the way I sort of look at it is he's a 55th pick.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not expecting too much from the 55th overall pick, but like you said, I felt like there was some stuff in his game that I feel like his passing especially is something that stood out to me. As a big man, I feel like that's something underrated that we're going to miss from Vucevic when he leaves, is that he is a good passing big man. And I think it's something we take for granted as a fan base.
How do you know he's going to leave though?
That's true. I guess that's true. Do you think that Nikola Vucevic is going to be a Bull then?
I mean, I go back and forth on this quite a bit. I do think I don't think that he's going to be with the Bulls beyond his contract, because I know there's some saying, oh, well, the Bulls are just going to try to extend him and then hopefully try to get something for him in the form of a trade, similar to what they did with Lonzo, right? Like they extended him, put a team-friendly contract in place. That way the contract was more tradable. I don't think that's going to happen. Either, he plays out the rest of the season, his contract expires, they let him walk in free agency, or I think the most likely scenario is he comes back, he starts this season, they try to recoup his trade value a bit, and they try to trade him before the deadline. They should have done that in the last deadline, but they didn't. But then again, we don't really know what offers were on the table for Vucevic. They're based on all the reports that we've seen, even leading up to the deadline, is there really wasn't that much interest in him. So it's like, what do you do if there's zero interest? Like if there was a second round pick on the table, yeah, you probably should have taken that, but we don't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that, by the way, because I feel like everyone's always saying, well, like trade him, just trade him. But obviously it takes two to tango. Like you need somebody
Right.
to be making the offer. And with Vucevic, I mean, we've heard reports about all kinds of other people getting offers, but we never hear
Right.
about a deal that we passed up for Vucevic. So, I mean,
Right.
do you think a second round pick is about right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? Because obviously, if the Bulls are taking on some bad contracts, then yeah, I mean, you could probably get more, right? I think it just depends on what they would be getting in return, because obviously some salary has to come back in, and if they're taking on unwanted salary, then yeah, I think a second round pick is more than reasonable. It's hard to say whether or not a second round pick is really truly what Vooch's value is at this point. It's mainly just because of his age, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I think the thing that I struggle with when it comes to Vooch is that he actually had a really great season last year. And I think that's downplayed a lot, given the fact that, everyone's like, oh, he's slow, doesn't play defense, all that stuff. And all that is true. But I struggle to see how teams, even some of the most desperate contending teams, aren't seeing that Vooch could be a solid role player on their team. Just a, high IQ big man that can pass, that can be an offensive hub, but he can also space the floor, because last year he actually shot the three ball well. Before that, he did not. So if you're going based off of last year's production, you say, okay, he shot 40% from three on decent volume. To me, it's like that should be something that at least a few teams would be interested in. But it just seems like that's not the case.
Yeah, it's wild to me, man. I thought for sure, at least, and maybe it is the Bulls. Maybe we're just asking for too much, because it does feel like kind of insane that one of these contenders isn't actually willing to put up a second round pick for Vucevic. Like, I know that he's slow and everything, but like you said, he's on an expiring contract. He played great last year. I mean, all things considered for him, like he played very well. So I'm not sure what's going on. It very much feels like another AK, like pass up, classic. He's just asking for too much.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the Bulls' MO right now, right? Or at least this front office anyway, is they're overvaluing their players. They're asking for too much, and then by the time it's like, we really need to trade this guy, it's too late, and then they have to settle for less, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, we did the same thing with Lonzo too, I guess. I mean, it's definitely a pattern. Are you caught up in Yuki mania though? To bring it back to summer league, everybody I know is on Yuki. How are you feeling about Yuki, man?
I mean, the guy is super fun to watch. I don't know that he's going to get a spot on an NBA roster just because of his size. And I mentioned this in my last video. Very fun player to watch. Great court vision, hustles. Everyone knows I love players that just hustle and give it their all when they're on the court, even if it is in summer league. And so that means a lot to me. But he's just, he's a little too small. I don't see an NBA team really bringing him on a full-time roster spot. A two-way deal, that's a different story, but a full-time roster spot, I just don't see it. I hope he does, because it seems like such a cool kid, plays hard. I'd be open to it. I don't think it's going to be on the Bulls, though. That's for sure.
That's fair. I will say he knows how to mark. Like he knows what he's doing, man. Like being that size, you gotta like be a little extra with your highlights. You know what I mean? So yeah. I feel like he knows, because he's definitely doing a little extra, little something when he has the room to do so. Those around the back passes are pretty sweet.
It does, and it kind of reminds me of, I mean, a little different style of play, but Jose Alvarado, right? It's just like smaller guy that probably not a lot of people, sought after, but he just, all right, I'm going to do whatever I can, be a pest, do some interesting plays that's going to get people's attention, and hopefully I get noticed because of it. And it's worked. It's worked for Alvarado, right? He's been able to get a full-time roster spot. Obviously a little bit bigger than Yuki is, but I would love for him to get a spot on an NBA roster. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's a shame, because it feels like he does have some game there. So I wish that he would actually get a legitimate chance. But like you said, 5'8", man, it's going to be tough going in for him in the NBA. But I believe that Michelle might have missed our earlier coverage of Noah. I'll quickly give mine. So my impression of Noah is that he's a project, but I feel like he's definitely progressing with each game. Like Jamaal said earlier, he's showing that he's showing. I feel like his passion for the game is coming out very much so in his play. I think
Yeah.
you're seeing it a lot in his hustle, his defense, the way he gets out in transition, and he's hustling out there. But his offensive game is definitely a work in progress, and it's going to be a minute. But I do like what I'm seeing from him defensively, and he's even longer than I thought. That like you hear the numbers and whatnot, but when you see it, it's different. I feel like with Noah, I feel like his length definitely jumped out at me a lot. Watching him in summer league, watching him and Matas together is going to be a lot of fun going forward.
Yeah. And I think people have to remember, and I know it's going to be said a lot, and it's probably already been said a lot. 18 years old, you know what I mean? It's very rare these days, ever since the NBA took away the high school rule coming into the league out of high school. Very rare to see a player coming into the league at 18, and for a player to come into the league at 18 and to be ready is not something you're going to see. And so, and not always, right? I mean, obviously LeBron James, Dwight Howard, there's been exceptions, but for Noah Essengue, it's going to take some time. And I think it kind of goes back to what AK was saying, at one of his press conferences about to the fans, be patient. I didn't really like the approach because it's like, okay, well, you've been saying this for a bit and you've kind of been, twiddling your thumbs and not really doing much when we actually had a team that could have potentially gone somewhere. But it's going to take time. And I've already kind of accepted that, you know what I mean? Like if Essengue comes out this year and he's, not really getting a lot of playing time, or when he is getting a lot of playing time, he's getting bodied up and just not there physically with the rest of the league, I'm expecting that. So I'm not going to be disappointed. 2, 3, 4 years from now, if we're still seeing kind of the same thing, kind of like with Patrick Williams, that's a different story. But my guess is it's gonna at least take, by the time until he's like 2021 before we really start to see him impacting the floor. If it happens earlier, great. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like a couple years is about right in terms of making like a real impact on the roster. But anything faster would be a cherry on top. But I mean, really, we're not looking for him to be like you said. If he gets there sooner, then that's great. But we're really playing for 3 years from now,
right?
So I feel like if you're looking for him to be at his ceiling, you're definitely going to be waiting for a couple of years. And that's how it should be. I mean, like you said, the kid's 18 years old. It's tough to ask Chicago Bulls fans for patience, but
we've been patient for quite some time. It's
or I mean, arguably on the other side of it, this is something that we should be elite at.
True. That's actually a really good point, right? We should be used to being patient.
Yeah. I mean, if we're not good at it by now, then we're never going to be good at it. I mean,
for sure.
So is there? I got to know your opinion on the Josh Giddey situation, man. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of stuff now, though, Jamaal, because you told me you had a feeling. Okay, I seen you told me you had a feeling it was going to happen within the next 24 hours, and it didn't happen, man. It didn't happen.
It did not happen, and to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
We're going the other way with it now.
Yeah, well, I mean, so a couple things, right? He was in Vegas. I don't know if he still is, but he was in Vegas for summer league. Didn't sit with the Bulls. You saw a lot of the guys sitting courtside, a lot of the veteran players. Now, it's not uncommon to see a player that hasn't re-signed with a given team, right, to not potentially sit with their team. We've seen that in the past. I found it a little not strange, but maybe like, okay, maybe the conversations, the discussions around the contract negotiations maybe aren't going as well as initially was reported, because we kept hearing from around the Bulls beat, Casey Johnson, others around the beat saying that, hey, those conversations right now, they're productive, right? They obviously haven't come to a deal yet, but they're positive and they've been productive. So now I'm starting to think, is that actually going to be the case? And then I was thinking about it more. As of right now, there's really no reason for either side to budge, right? Like there's no trade interest right now, at least from what we've heard anyway. There's no third-party interest for a potential sign and trade for Giddey. No teams around the league have cap space to be able to even give him an offer, or at least an offer that's in the range of what he probably should be getting. And so now it's just this waiting game where you're kind of seeing who blinks first. And I think that really comes the deadline when it's October 1st, I believe that was recently revealed, right? That it's like those are the last days to sign for a player to sign the qualifying offer. And so October 1st, that's really when a decision has to be made. Is Giddey going to take the qualifying offer, or is he going to sign the deal that the Bulls have given him? So I honestly don't know. I could see this playing out for a long, long time. I think the only challenge with that is it could impact the relationship the longer that this plays out. That's my only concern.
Yeah, that's a worry for me. It's not too crazy of a worry because at the end of the day, when they roll the ball out there, they got to play, and I feel like he's not gonna be thinking about that when he's running full court. But I agree with you though to an like there's like a tipping point between we want to take care of this guy and running a franchise like a smart, responsible way, and I just really hope that we don't. I really hope that we don't cross that line because I feel like Josh Giddey is one of the only positives that we've. This is the first time that with him and Matas, the first time I felt like confident in our future in many years. I mean, probably since we first got Lauri Markkanen. That's a long time ago since we've had hope for the future because we didn't really ever see it from Pat Williams. I mean, we never really got not even like Lauri levels of production from him. So it's tough. I'm a huge Josh Giddey fan. In case you can't tell, I got his friggin' Australian Brewers jersey right back here. So I'm big on him, and so it's tough. I want to re-sign him. Do you think that $30 million is too much?
30 million's a lot. 30 million is a lot for Josh Giddey. I've always said I think the fair range that makes the most sense, that is ideal for both parties. Maybe not as ideal for the Bulls, but 5 years, 125, so 25 million per year. I know a lot of people have said 100 that is a fair deal. Sure, the Bulls could offer that. They have the leverage, they have the ability to do that, and it's one of those things where they could just say, here's the offer, take it or leave it. I just think that that's well below Josh Giddey's value or his production that he gives on the court. And the challenge with that is, and I was kind of going back to what you were saying, when the ball goes out on the court, they're not going to be thinking about that sort of thing. I would actually argue, knowing what we know of Josh Giddey, at least in the early stages of his career, he kind of has let the off-court stuff get to him a bit, right? Like mentally with everything that was going on in OKC, all the off-court stuff that we don't need to get into, right? He even admitted that impacted my play in that final season in Oklahoma City. And then when he came to Chicago, same thing. In the beginning of the year, right? He said, I was thinking too much, I was trying to do too much, and, shots weren't going down, and, I was getting in my head. So even giving him something like 5 years, $100 million, which would be amazing for the Bulls because it's a very team-friendly contract for them. I do wonder if he's going to feel like he got the short end of the stick and it starts to impact his play. And maybe I'm, overthinking it. Maybe he's more mature than that. And maybe as he gets older, he doesn't worry about that kind of thing. But that's sort of my perspective. So to answer your question, 30 million, kind of a lot. I think that would set the Bulls in a pretty tough predicament, especially if they're trying to preserve cap space going into 2026.
I've been seeing though, like that free agent class for 2026 that everybody was aren't like Jaren Jackson Jr. was like one of the big names in that class, and I believe he re-signed.
He did, yeah.
So, I mean, how much do we need to be flexible? I suppose, I guess, going into 2026, or are we getting ready for something that's not going to be available to us? I hear what you're saying. So let me ask you this: do you think that the Bulls can re-sign Josh Giddey and Kobe White and Matas Buzelis? Like, do you think that that's our core moving forward, or do you think that the Bulls are looking to go elsewhere?
Well, and you asked a question first. I wanted to address that. Now I'm blanking on what it was. It was
no, you're okay.
It was around like Josh Giddey,
Kobe White, and Matas Buzelis. Like, do you think that we re-sign Giddey and Kobe White and roll with those three as our core?
Well, yes and no. I think the challenge that I have, especially as it relates to Kobe White, is he's going to get a big payday. He's far and away outplayed that contract. And so the Bulls have to really ask themselves, is it worth having Coby White, Josh Giddey as our starting backcourt that's going to make probably around $70 million per year? Is that core going to help us win a championship in the near future? Not near future, even the distant future. And if the answer is no, then I think you really have to take a step back and say, what could we potentially get for Coby White? Which I'm sure the Bulls are already doing anyway, right? They know that he's on an expiring contract. They know that he's going to need a much larger deal than he's currently getting. And so they're probably trying to, assess the landscape and see what teams are going to be willing to offer for Coby White. It's a tough question to answer because I think the core could be decent. I don't think that it's a contending team by any means. And the other thing I've said this before, I think the Bulls also owe it to themselves based on what they saw post All-Star break, 15-5, whatever the record was, right? Was that real? Because everyone knows, March, April, sometimes those results can be a little inflated because they're not going against teams at full strength, blah, blah, blah. Was it real? And so they owe it to themselves to see how this season plays out going into the trade deadline and say, yeah, you know what? We actually could work with these guys. And it does make sense to keep Coby around, and it does make sense to re-sign him. And then obviously, hopefully they've already re-signed Giddey by that point. But so I think it's more of a waiting game, seeing how the season goes, and then assessing from there at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes the most sense to me. I'm more of a believer, I guess, in the way that year ended than most. I do believe in it. I do think that there's obviously a little bit of inflation there from teams that were resting their starters or whatever, but I do think that was more of in line of what Josh Giddey, I guess, was, because he was the big change, right?
Yeah.
Buzelis kind of made a big jump too. It's tough to say though, because like you said, I just don't know how much of it was real. I want to believe in it though, and maybe that's my problem, is I'm too optimistic. But
well, I mean, the thing, you're actually not too optimistic, and the biggest issue I have when I always hear people saying, "Oh, it was March basketball. You can never take March basketball seriously." It's like, well, it's still basketball. It's still the regular season. You know what I mean? Because then nothing is ever real, right? It's like, oh, the start of the season. It's like, oh, the beginning of the year. Teams are getting settled in, and then you have the middle of the year, and then, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, I'm loving what you're saying.
Okay. No, I just, you cut out a little bit on my side, so I wasn't sure if it was me. But no, like, then you have the middle of the season. It's like, oh, that's really meaningful basketball, and then post All-Star break, none of it matters. It's like, well, this stuff still matters. It might not. You need a larger sample size overall to really be able to assess what a team can and cannot do. But you can't just say like, oh, it's March basketball, doesn't mean anything. It's like, not necessarily true. The team played well. They had some really good games, and they played against full strength teams. Those games against the Lakers, those 2 games against the Lakers, they played very well, and the Lakers were fully healthy. This was post Luka trade. You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't like the pre Luka days. So I don't like that argument either. I get that, yeah, you maybe have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but people are underplaying March basketball quite a bit.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely a happy medium there that a lot of people aren't like willing to venture into. Is it a little bit different than, I guess, real basketball, which is before March? Like, sure. But like you said, they're still out there trying. They're all those players. If they're resting, they're resting. But for the most part, I don't really like the argument that it's not the same level of basketball. It's still NBA basketball. So
yeah, exactly.
So what do you think then? Let me give you a scenario. What if the Bulls start 20-10? Do you think that it's buy-in 100% if that's how we started?
Well, buy-in in what sense?
Like,
buy-in, like, hey, this team can win a championship, or buy-in like, hey, we've got something here that we can keep progressing on and working towards the future.
I guess what I'm asking is, like, would that solidify Coby White, Josh Giddey, and Matas Buzelis as a core that you would invest in going forward?
It's tough. I mean, I feel like I would need like a little bit of a larger sample size. The thing about starting off the season, and I don't think that it's, out of this realm of possibility that they go 20-10. And I say that the season and how the Eastern Conference is going to be. But what's tough about that scenario by going 20-10 is you say, okay, well, we may have a shot at making a deep playoff run. And you wouldn't be wrong because, again, going back to everything that, all the injuries in the East is up for grabs and people know that. I think that's my only concern there is you say, well, this is an indication that you need to buy in. But then, the next season comes around, Jason Tatum comes back, Tyrese Halliburton comes back. And so then the East becomes more competitive. And then it's like, well, now we've already bought in, we've already re-signed Kobe, we've re-signed Giddey. So that's the only tricky thing there is you might give yourself a false sense of hope that you might be better than you actually are just because of how the Eastern Conference is going to be structured next season. So that's a tough one. I don't really know. I would say buy in, yes, to an extent, but be wary of it, right? If they start off the season 20-10.
Okay, that makes sense. It's gonna be hard for me though. You say buy in, but be wary. I mean, if we go 20-10, man, it's all bets are off for me. I'm gonna be.
I mean, we haven't seen them go 20-10 to start a season in a long time. I guess the 2021 season they were probably around. Season, but
yeah, it would be insane. I'll be next level type of excitement. I'll definitely be irresponsible about it. But I have a question from Neil here. Jamaal, do you think the Bulls are at risk of creating a Zach situation where Giddey feels put out by Bulls playing hardball, and would that cause an issue in his game?
Well, appreciate Neil for the question. Neil's great. Love following
Neil's the
Neil
man
on Twitter. Probably. I'd like. This is going to sound bad because, in a way, I guess it's going to probably disparage Zach a little bit. I'd like to think that Giddey is a little more mature in handling that type of thing. Because with Zach LaVine, right? I mean, we saw a lot of instances. Obviously, a very professional guy, great player, but we did see a lot of instances where he would get upset, right? We saw where he got benched by Billy Donovan, and that really impacted his relationship with Billy Donovan and held that grudge for a long time. And I do think that the Bulls, telling him to go out and get an offer in restricted free agency, which is what I assume Neil's talking about, right? It's like when they back in 2018 or whatever it was when Sacramento gave him an offer and the Bulls matched it. I think that didn't sit with him very well. Like, yes, the Bulls matched it, but he didn't really like the approach of like, okay, well, go out and get an offer. We want the market to dictate your value. So yes and no. I could see it being a scenario where it just kind of doesn't sit well with Giddey, and that just festers over time. And it was kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that does worry me, man. I'm big on like a team chemistry and like treating people well and how that comes out like in your play. So that would worry me for sure. At the same time though, you would like to hope that Josh Giddey would understand that business is business, and I hope that the contract negotiations at the end of the day won't impact his play on the court. But like you said, there is, examples of stuff off the court affecting his play or being in his head at least. So it's definitely a worry. But so do you think that as currently constructed, obviously we don't know how Noah's going to pan out and everything, but do you believe that we're destined for the play-in again?
Probably. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like the Bulls are too good to really be bottoming out, especially with the way the East is right now. But they're not good enough to really make the playoffs. I mean, I could see them squeaking to the playoffs as like a 7 or 8 seed, and then they get beat up in the first round. Probably, right? I mean, just think about it. Like if you look at the roster, it was just basically the roster they had last year, at least towards the end of the year. I mean, anyway, that was a decent team, not bad, but not great. And so you're probably going to see more of the same unless we see like a big trade of some kind, which I don't think is going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to be more of the same thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the play-in does feel like we're destined for that. I want to say that we can make the 6th seed, but it would require a pretty big jump from Matas Buzelis for that to happen. Hoping for it, but
a big jump from Buzelis. Essengue playing much better than expected, right? And Kobe obviously having an all-star type leap. Yeah, like a lot of things would really have to go right for the Bulls to finish top 6. I don't know. And then again, I say that, but I'm just like, you never really know what's going to happen in the East because what if there are more injuries, right? There's Knicks, for example, a team that did not get injured last year. They really stayed healthy for the most part, right? But they put in a lot of minutes. That Tom Thibodeau, they put in a lot of minutes. If for some reason one of their big guys goes down, that opens up things even more, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. You never really know, especially in today's NBA, where injuries can just take a turn for the worse for any organization. That could include the Bulls. So, but anyway, I mean, yeah, things really have to go right for the Bulls to kind of finish in that top 6 for sure.
Without a doubt, man. Ian says, if they can't figure out a deal with Giddey, do you trade him for early picks? Is there a player in mind you think? I personally, I don't think that. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that we're going to re-sign Josh Giddey one way or another. It's just a matter for how much, because I just really can't see AK letting Josh Giddey walk, and I can't see him. I mean, who would you even trade him for? If I'm being honest, I can't. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any trade.
That was going to be my question back to Ian. Was like, well, who's trading for Josh Giddey? And I'm not saying that people wouldn't be interested in Giddey. It's that whoever is interested in Giddey, they also have to take on the contract that the Bulls are already wary of signing him to. You know what I mean? It's like, so
yeah,
I don't see, and especially like I think you meant, for picks, teams are going to give up picks and take on, a long-term contract for Josh Giddey. I just don't see it happening. I think I'm with you. They're going to re-sign him. It's just a matter of how much it's going to be for.
Yeah. Do you subscribe to the thinking that you have to have a certain kind of team to win with Josh Giddey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes for a lot of players, right? You have to have a certain type of team around a given player in order for them to win. Yeah, I mean, you have to have players that are going to be defensive minded. You're going to have players that are good lob threats, rim runners, right? He thrives in the open court, and so you have to have players that are going to be able to run and move in the open court. Players that are really good playing off the ball. So yeah, I mean, that goes for a lot of players, not even just with Josh Giddey. But for him specifically, you need the right guys around him in order to really be able to succeed. And the Bulls have some of that. They obviously need to still, make some adjustments, but they have some of the players that you would want around Giddey at this point in time.
For sure. I'm glad that you said that about like how basically any player, right, needs certain kind of players around them. It just feels like that phrase gets used with Giddey quite often because I guess he's a point guard and because he's not a great shooter.
Right. Like you can say that about LeBron James. LeBron James needs certain players around him, right? You know what I mean? It's like he's one of the greatest players to ever play the game, but he needs certain guys around him in order for that team to be successful. You need shooters, you need guys that are going to be able to play off the ball because he obviously likes to control the ball quite a bit. So I mean, it applies really to any player.
You need Bronny.
Of course you need Bronny, right?
I'm sorry. Maybe that was a low blow, but I had to throw that one in there. But you hear that all the time. Like, I don't think that anybody is going to not want Josh Giddey because of his play profile, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It feels like a lot of times people are trying to frame Giddey as like this player that nobody wants, and like we're stuck with him. And I don't think that that's the case at all, which is why I worded that way. But I personally, I don't. I'm trying to word this a certain way. I don't know if we have that player. Like, do you think that the Bulls have an alpha type of player on their roster right now? Do you think that Matas Buzelis can become that, or do you think he has that potential?
Yeah, Buzelis can be. Obviously not there yet. But outside of that, no, they don't. I don't think that they have an alpha type player. And that's kind of what I've been wanting. And it doesn't mean like they need like, oh, that guy, that number one option. Like you hear a lot of people saying they need that guy, they need that superstar, that top 5 player in the league, which obviously that would be amazing if they did. But when I say like an alpha guy, just like a guy that's a dog on the court, that knows how to get the most out of his team, that encourages his team, that, can make them better, that want to play harder, stuff like that. Like that's the kind of guy I really the Bulls have. And I think Buzelis can be that guy. It's just going to take a couple of years, before he kind of gets to that level.
For sure. It's been pretty encouraging to see him take on the leadership role that he already has in this offseason, though. Like he definitely speaks beyond his years. Talking about Noah Essengue getting there early and stuff like that, because he gets there early. I'm like, dude, you're 20 years old. Do you know that you're 20 years old? But no, it's good.
Right.
It's really good that he has such a positive mindset, and we need more of that in the building, because the Bulls definitely need culture. If there's nothing else that we need, it's culture. But
For sure.
do you think that the firing of Patton is going to have a large impact on the Bulls? Do you think that that's going to? I guess. Do you think that that's going to make a difference in our season? I've seen a lot made of that.
I actually made quite a big deal about that, which I didn't think that it would hit me as hard as it did. And I think now that I've the dust has settled, I'm kind of like, all right, whatever. It's probably not that big of a deal. But at the time, I was just like, man, this is sort of Garpax all over again. And the reason I said that was because of the stuff that came out afterwards, right? It's like they didn't agree with some of the things that Patton was saying. And it was kind of like, well, if you don't agree with us, you're out. Very dictatorial, if you will, right? And it didn't make sense to me, because it was the first season in a while where you saw a lot of shooting progress from the Bulls. And then they fired their shooting coach, which I know he was more than just that, right? Player development coach, what have you. But it didn't sit with me very well. And up until that point, even though I've been, critical of AK in the front office, I always was kind of like, well, they deserve a little bit of grace, because they've only been here for so long. And in a front office type role, you're talking about years over time, right? To really show what you can and can't do. But that one really stuck with me. And I think now looking back, it's like, okay, well, it's fine. If he was being insubordinate, I mean, we don't know all the things that went on behind the scenes that maybe led to that firing. Whether or not it's going to impact the Bulls, I don't know, because the other thing was that a lot of players praised him, right? They're like, he was really great for my development, really enjoyed working with him. And you don't want to piss off the players, right? Those are the guys that are going to be playing in the game. So we'll see. I mean, to my knowledge anyway, unless I missed it, I don't think they've hired anybody else to replace him anyway. I was hoping maybe in that cash, considerations they got from the, trading their second round pick, maybe they would invest that money in a new shooting coach, but it doesn't sound like they're going to do that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if that has any impact on them going into the season.
I'll tell you what, man, they should have to tell us what they're going to use that money for. like that should be required. Like, if you're going to get only cash considerations back in a trade, like, I need to know why.
No, I think we do know why, right? It's Jerry just loves making a little bit of extra money. Maybe go to a few extra nice meals, and I don't think that anything's being used with that money outside of just going back in the bottom line of that franchise.
It's such a bummer, man, because I agree with you. I think it's probably just not for no reason other than, oh yeah, money, and which is not good enough for moving 10 spots lower in a draft. But
right.
I digress. Ian, to answer your question here, it's not, he is good enough to be traded. It's just that he's in a spot at point guard where it is a loaded position in the league, and those teams that might need that would be able to afford him don't necessarily need him. He is good enough to be traded.
I think we should clarify. Josh Giddey is definitely good enough. He's good enough to be traded. But what you have to understand in any trade in the NBA, especially in the new CBA, are teams going to want to take on the contract that they're trading for? And if you're paying Josh Giddey $30 million a year, are you wanting to take on that contract? I mean, even I'll use like LeBron James as an example, right? Everyone's talking about how like, oh, LeBron, does he want to stay with the Lakers? Well, he'd have to get traded. As great as LeBron is, teams aren't going to be wanting to take on LeBron's $53 million contract when he's likely just going to retire the next year, right? Obviously, he's good enough to be traded. He's one of the best players, but it's like they're things that you have to take into consideration when you talk about a trade. So it's that's really the basis of it, right? He's good enough to be traded. It's just I don't know that teams are going to be wanting to take on his contract.
Absolutely, absolutely. With LeBron too, you have to also get Bronny. Sorry.
Right. Bronny with it, right? So if you're willing to take that, and it's not Bronny's contract isn't that cheap. I think they paid him like a $7 million contract, not per year, but I think it was like 3-4 years, $7 million for a second round pick. So it's like you
Yeah,
just want to take on that dead money. Okay, great.
yeah. I honestly, it feels like it probably would be a requirement on his end, honestly. But yeah, no, I agree with you though. In exactly what you know what you said about Josh Giddey. But so what are you looking for from Buzelis this year? Then I'm real excited to see what he does in his sophomore year. I was hoping that he would jump up maybe to like a 17 point per game player. Do you think that that's like out? Am I being I guess am I asking for too much to want that?
17's a lot.
It is a lot.
I was gonna try to pull up what his stats were post All-Star break while I'm doing that. I,
I want to say it was like 13. I could be wrong though.
For me, I mean, what I want to see from Buzelis is taking leadership role is not what I expect of him, but almost like taking ownership. Like, hey, I'm the next guy up. This is going to be my team. Not right now, but eventually, right? He, at least for what we're viewing it right now, for all intents and purposes, he's the future of the team. And so going into the second year, making it known, right? Like maybe he's not going to be the best player next year, but making it known that this is going to be his time and that he's going to be the one taking over. What that looks like from a numbers perspective, I don't really know, but just showing like I'm the guy. I'm the next man up. And obviously what I like about Buzelis, so I don't have any doubt that he's not going to be able to do it, being aggressive, right? So demanding more shots, getting to the rim, trying to get to the foul line more, which we've seen him do so far in summer league, stuff like that. I need to see that going into a second season, right? That was the thing we all wanted to see from Pat. We wanted to see him be more aggressive. We wanted to see him take more shots. It just hasn't really happened. Need to see that from Miles Buzelis. Now that we know he's obviously going to get playing time, whereas the beginning of season last year he really didn't. Let me see. Post All-Star break, he averaged 13 points per game.
Okay.
So 17, it's not unreasonable. A lot of it also depends, like, do the Bulls, if the Bulls trade Vooch, because that's a lot of offense, right? That's a lot of shots that are going to become available. And maybe he gets there as a result of it, right? But from a numbers perspective, 15 points per game, I think would be amazing. If more, even better. But I want to see him take more shots. I want to see him get to the free throw line more. Even though his 3-point shooting, steadily improved, it wasn't bad. He shot 36% on the season. I'd love to see that go up. I'd love to see him take more threes as well. So I do, and it's all, maybe some of it's not really fair to put that on him, to have those kind of high expectations for a guy that's just going to be turning 21, going into a second season. But it's like, man, this is what we have. This is all we have as Bulls fans right now. We need this guy to take a massive leap.
Yes, please. For my mental health, it would be fantastic. Also my blood pressure, but I agree. I'm hoping for 17, but like you said, I think it's more of how I view it. Like when I'm watching him, I want to see him take on, like you said, just be more aggressive and take on more shots. I really want to see I want to see him be able to isolate more often. I'm okay with the fact that we don't isolate very often anymore. I got enough isolation in the last 3 years for my entire life, I think. But I do want to know that he can do it. You know what I mean? I want to know that if we need a bucket, I want to know that we could throw it to him and be like, hey, Matas, go get us a bucket. Like that's what I think a good next step for him would be, for sure. But
and he can do that, right? I mean, like we saw some of it in summer league. We saw some of it last season, right? I mean, he has the ability to create shots. You know what I mean? And that's positive. Because a lot of people, they come into this league and they're not really there for that kind of production, right? They're just playing off the ball, they're standing in the corner, but he has the ability to handle the ball well, create his own shot, whether being from outside or driving the hoop. So yeah, I could see it for sure.
For sure. So Ian, real quick to answer you, I don't think that the Nets want Josh Giddey. They had an opportunity to sign him on the open market, and they did not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they were
they
actually
the only team that could have.
yes. Yeah, like that was the team that could have taken him and or at least tried to get him, and they did not. So I honestly, Josh Giddey's going to be a bull. For whoever needs to know that, like Josh Giddey's going to be a bull. But
Whether people like it or not, right? That's why I keep saying it's like I don't know who needs to hear this, but Josh Giddey is going to be on the Chicago Bulls next season. That's for sure.
Yes, I at least feel better about saying that than telling people that Vucevic is going to be a bull next year. That one usually invites a little bit more ire. But I agree with though, man. I'm on the trade Kobe White bandwagon. I don't know, how do you feel about Kobe White's future on the Chicago Bulls?
I mean, the trade Kobe White bandwagon, it all depends on what they can get for him, right? Obviously, if you can get, first round pick, 2 first round picks, like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And kind of what I was, telling you earlier, it's like, to an extent, I'm on the Kobe White trade bandwagon, just simply for the fact that he's an expiring contract. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. You don't want to lose him for nothing. His value is probably the highest it's been.
Yes.
Especially with the way he closed out last season. Good contract, so it's easily, able to be moved with the money that he's making. So yeah, if you can get a good return for him, absolutely. I think the question is, can they actually get a good return for him? And if not, right, if people are like, yeah, we'll give you a couple second round picks, then no, you don't trade Kobe White. And then I'm not on it. So I'm on the bandwagon only based on the type of return that it can bring you.
Apparently, there was a report this offseason that we turned down the Magic's 2 first round picks. Like if we actually did that, then that's unfortunate, because in my opinion, that would have been like, why wouldn't you make that happen?
Yeah, I always have to, because I heard that somewhere. I can't remember where it came from. For me, it's like, if I'm not hearing it from like the core main Bulls beat writers, which I know sometimes isn't fair because they don't always have the correct up-to-date information, then I'm always taking it with a grain of salt. Because yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the package was, but you're right. It was 2 first round picks. I think it was Jonathan Isaac or Cole Anthony that was included in that. I don't know how you.
It was both of them. It was both of them, and yeah, and then 2 first round picks this year.
Oh, and that's the other thing. That was the other reason that I remember it. It can't be the full trade because the money wouldn't have worked. They wouldn't have been able. Jonathan Isaac makes more than Kobe does alone, and then you add Cole Anthony on top of it. So the trade itself would not have gone through. There must have been like another player the Bulls would have to run, like a Javon Carter or something like that. But yeah, if they really passed on something like that, that's pretty rough, because those were, and if I remember correctly, they were like their 2025 draft picks, which is like that. Those are immediate available picks that you can start working with now. You know what I mean? So it's like you go into the first round with 3 picks. Yeah, I really hope it's not true. If it is true, bad on the front office, because that's a deal.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially because I really liked the end of the first round this year. I thought there was a lot of really solid players like that you could have taken a chance on and at least really, loaded up your if you were trying to replace Vucevic. I mean, okay, now you've got 3 shots at it, and or you can still take Noah Essengue like we took, and then you'd have 2 more shots in the first round to get your big man. So I agree. I hope that report wasn't true. And it's not because I want to get rid of Kobe White. It's because of like what you said about this core and like, what do you think their ceiling is? So to me, Kobe White's the perfect person to trade because he has value, and because I think you can round out what your core is going to be by trading him ideally. But it's just tough, man, because as much as I am a fan of Kobe, and I do think that there's some merit to people saying like, well, why do you want to trade him so that you can get somebody that's almost that is Kobe White, or that is like a little bit better. But it's just tough, man, because if the goal is to win a championship, then I don't think that you're doing it around that core of Buzelis, White, and Giddey. That's why it's tough, man. I feel like we're just in that spot where you're gonna have to trade somebody that you actually like, but the deal has to make sense.
Yeah, and you also have to factor in Kobe's age, which sounds ridiculous, right? Because he's only 25 years old. But if you're talking about, Essengue, 18, like the timeline then is shifting a
Yeah,
bit. So you have to
it's a
consider that
7
as well.
years. It's a
Yeah.
7-year
So
difference. It's a big difference.
yeah, which is insane. So it's like, and obviously, Essengue is not going to be ready, right? He's not going to be ready at least for the next couple of years. I mean, maybe he wows us, right, and has an amazing rookie season. Great, I hope it happens. But my assumption is it's going to take him a few years, and so Kobe White's 25. Maybe by the time Essengue is actually ready, Kobe's approaching 30. And it's like, okay, well then what do you do? So that's why I think the Kobe White trade factor needs to be taken into consideration for that reason.
Absolutely. And then you also have Dosunmu right there as well, which is another piece of it is I feel like he offers a little bit more of a well-rounded player, and you're probably going to I thought you might be able to get him for cheaper, but I don't know. Now I'm hearing that he's getting more offers, or he's generating more interest on the trade market than Kobe White is. So maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought that you can get Io for cheaper, and then also, have get playmaking and defense that you don't get from Kobe White. You can get it from Io. But
well, I think that's why you're seeing more trade interest from Io, right? Because of the fact that you probably whatever team trades for him is going to be able to keep him long term for cheaper than they would Kobe White. That's probably and I mean the other reason could be the Bulls are just not taking calls on Kobe. They could say, no, we're not interested. Kobe's not available. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I like you said, I've seen the same thing. Right, as far as like more chatter around Io than there is Kobe, and that's my thinking around it. It's like Io is a much easier get. You probably don't have to trade as much to get him, and you don't have to pay him as much to keep him long term.
That makes sense. I really think that Io. I think I would rather keep Io long term than Kobe from a team building perspective, and it's only because I just it's tough with Kobe. Like if he's going to be all he is right now, I feel like I need him to. If he's just going to be an elite scorer, I feel like I need that player to be averaging like 25, 27 points a game. And I just don't, if that's all they're doing for me, and I'm going to re-sign this player long term. And I just don't know if that's what Kobe White's capable of. Do you think that he has another tier to his game?
I agree with you. The only reason that it might give me a little bit pause is because he was kind of doing that post All-Star break. Again, March basketball, small sample size, but he won the Eastern Conference player. Yeah, right. Eastern Conference Player of the Month in March.
Yeah.
He was averaging like 27 points per game.
He was.
Let me look. His post All-Star break, he averaged 24.5 points per game, and on pretty good splits, 49, 36, 91. So I don't know. Maybe he could get there. Maybe the reason that we didn't see it before is because the Bulls had primary scorers in the lineup: Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic. So. But I agree with you though that I am hesitant about that, and I would need to see Kobe do that over an entire season rather than just a smaller sample size.
Absolutely, it's going to be really. I'm really intrigued to see how the Bulls start this year because there's so many question marks in terms of like guys' ceilings, and it's actually exciting for once to not know, like every year the last few years going into the season, it's like okay, I know who these Bulls are. Right, I have no idea who these Bulls are, like for the first time in many years. So I hope for our mental health, man. I hope that it's better than it's been because it's been rough. We got one trade Kobe. That's it. Just trade Kobe.
It's the ever the spectrum, right, of people. Trade Kobe. Nope, never trade Kobe. He's untouchable, right? I mean that's how we. There's never really that much middle ground. There's always all one side and completely on the other for any player, that is.
Yeah, I mean, well, how do you feel about tanking?
Oh man, this could go on for a while. No. I mean, it's the way that I've kind of approached it is there are benefits to tanking, obviously. And I'll just talk about last year, right? Because that was sort of the ongoing debate among Bulls fans. Had the Bulls started out really poorly, and it was clear that even among the young players, they're just not going to do well. Yeah, you tank. You tank because that try to maximize the highest pick possible, give yourself the best probability to get a number 1 pick. My philosophy or my thinking around it was, if the young guys, specifically the young guys, not Vucevic, not Levine, not even Lonzo at the time, if the young guys are showing progress and they're doing well, roll with it. Don't try to manufacture losses. Don't they're come up with injuries, or bench them because they're playing too well. If they're doing okay and they're progressing, you go with it, because nothing in this league is guaranteed, especially when it comes to getting a top pick. And so the Bulls did roll with it. Obviously, it didn't really work out because they went to the play-in and then they got the number 12 pick. But who knows? Maybe Essengue becomes one of the better players from that draft. I mean, that's the other thing of the draft. It's a crapshoot to an extent. And so my philosophy on tanking is, only do it when you have a really bad team and that bad team is going nowhere. Like, when the Bulls, after they traded Jimmy Butler, that made sense to tank. It's like, oh, great, they had Larry Markkinen and they had some nice pieces, but it was like, this team isn't good enough, so try to lose some games. But there were some things that the Bulls could work with, and that was why I was like, I don't think the tanking route just makes sense.
I love that answer. I feel like if I am very much against tanking, but I think the way that you worded it is very good. So I'm against manufacturing losses.
Exactly.
So
me, same.
I feel like I'm glad that you said it that way, because I don't believe if you're gonna be bad, then be bad. Be bad because you're bad, and that's
Right.
okay. You know what I mean? But sitting guys for no reason or anything, or trading good players because you want to be bad.
Right.
I think that's where it goes too far. Now, there's definitely some levels to all of it, right? But if you're gonna trade away something that you would build with otherwise because you want to be bad, I think that's where it gets lost in the sauce. I think a lot of Bulls fans wanted to just sell everything off the team last year and just trot 5 Denzel Valentines out there, and I'm sorry, I guess I just can't support that. I think that it's anti-sports to me to ask teams to manufacture losses. So I'm glad that you said it that way, because if you're bad and you embrace this being bad, that's different to me than tanking, or at least from what Bulls fans wanted us to do, versus we were never going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA with the roster that we had, unless we manufactured the losses, like you were saying. So I think that there's value in learning how to win too. You don't, like you said, with a young team that's going out there and balling, you can't ask them to then lose or to change anything about what they're doing, because you want them to, be instilled with good habits and everything. So.
For sure. And I mean, it's, the Wizards and Jazz were playing unwatchable basketball, right? And they end up getting the 5th and the 6th pick. Better than what the Bulls got, obviously, but it's like the Bulls actually missed out on a coin flip to get Cooper Flag. That's just the way I look at it.
Yes. And it has nothing to do with the stupid Josh Giddey shot either. Everybody that was putting it all on that one game, you want to take away the most fun moment of the season, the play that the NBA said was the play of the year. You want to take that one away. How about we take away some random meaningless game from December?
Well, and what people also don't understand, and I tweeted this, was that had the Bulls actually lost one more game, they would have gotten a completely different set of combinations, and there wouldn't have even been a tiebreaker with the Mavs. So it's it would have been because then there wouldn't have been a tiebreaker, right? So they would have been getting a bunch of different ping pong balls, and that changes everything, right? It's
yes,
you can't look at it that way for sure.
No, yeah, I mean, people were just trying to use it to flip, their narratives. But I agree though wholeheartedly, man. So I think that'll do it for us tonight, Jamaal. I appreciate you very much for coming on with me, man. This was a lot of fun. I hope that this is not the last time that we're talking Bulls basketball together, because I would definitely love to do this again soon.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you having me on. Let's definitely do it again.
Awesome. Anybody who's watching, make sure that you check out Jamaal, Bull Central on YouTube. Is it at Bull Central YT?
Yeah.
at Bull Central YT is the handle. Definitely check him out. He's been an inspiration to me, and if you haven't checked him out, you should 100%.
Appreciate
all right,
it, man.
Jamal.
Thank you.
Of course. But,
All right.
all right, y'all. Take it easy. Have a great night.